Who are you really? Are you just what people say you are, what you think you are? Or is there something much bigger waiting to be discovered? The answer to this question can change everything. In this video, we'll explore the hidden essence that lives within you, reveal how your emotions and thoughts shape your reality, and show you the way to reconnect with your true nature. As Christ said, "The kingdom of God is within you." The journey has begun, and there's no more time to lose. Are you ready to finally wake up and take on the light that has always been with you? Have you ever had the feeling that there is something in you that goes beyond what people see? Perhaps in a moment of silence, or even in a dream, you felt that your existence can't be summed up in the daily routine, the labels that have been placed on you, or the expectations that society imposes. The truth is that you are not just a body, a mind, or a sequence of thoughts. There is a silent force within you, an essence that is waiting to be rediscovered. This essence is your true nature, what you really are, behind all the masks. From an early age, we learn to define who we are by our achievements, by what we own, or by what others think of us. But this creates a false identity, built like a shadow projected by the mind. The true nature of the human being is spiritual, eternal, and unlimited. You are not just that public version you wear every day. There is a light in you that cannot be captured by words or appearances. It just is. And when you awaken to this truth, everything around you starts to make more sense. Imagine that your essence is like a sun that has always been shining behind the clouds. These clouds are the thoughts of doubt, fear, and judgment that you have accumulated throughout your life. Every time you identify with these clouds, thinking that they define who you are, you forget the constant light that exists within you. But here's the good news. You don't need to change into something new to find that light. It's always been there, intact, just waiting to be remembered. This awakening to your true essence is not something distant or complicated. It starts with something simple, a conscious choice to look inwards. Have you ever noticed that, however much the outside world changes, there is one part of you that never changes? That part is your true self, the pure expression of divine energy. This essence is beyond judgments, labels, or limitations, and it is calling you to recognize it, right now. When you start listening to this call, something subtly changes. That constant need to prove yourself to others begins to disappear. The search for external validation loses its importance. Little by little, you realize that you don't need to be anything other than what you already are. And it's at that moment, when you stop fighting yourself and let go of the expectations that have been imposed on you, that your true nature begins to emerge. It feels like we're reaching a point where the illusions become clearer, and you begin to question what, in the end, separates you from that perfect essence. As you awaken to this deeper essence, you soon realize that there is an invisible force trying to pull you away from it: the ego. The ego is like a distorted lens that makes you believe you are separate from everything and everyone, including yourself. It convinces you that you need to be more to be enough, that happiness is always out there, in achievements, people, or in other people's approval. Deep down, the ego is not your enemy, but a survival mechanism that wants to protect you. The point is that when you blindly believe in it, you end up living according to fears, comparisons, and insecurities, as if you were just an isolated island in the middle of the ocean. The ego has a subtle way of keeping you trapped. It creates stories. You'll never be good enough. Look at what they've done to you. How can you forgive them? Only when you've achieved that will you be happy. You've heard these internal voices, right? They sound so convincing that you often identify with them completely, forgetting that they're just passing thoughts. And it's precisely this identification that disconnects you from your true nature. The ego thrives on the feeling of separation. Me against the world. Me against the other. Me against myself. This ego game can manifest itself in various ways: competition, pride, victimhood, or the constant need for control. It creates the illusion that you need to win in order to feel complete, as if fullness were an achievement and not something that is already part of who you are. And the more you lose yourself in this game, the more distant you feel from your essence. The search for external validation becomes an endless cycle. Even when you achieve something, another goal and another obstacle soon appear. It's like chasing the horizon. The further you go, the further away it seems to get. That's why one of the ego's biggest traps is fear. The fear of not being accepted, of failing, of not being enough. This fear paralyzes you and prevents you from seeing that separation is an illusion. The truth is that there is nothing you lack. You are already whole. What disconnects you is this false belief that something is missing. When you align with your true nature, you realize that the connection with everything and everyone already exists. There is no need to compete, prove, or compare yourself, because everyone is part of the same unit. What you seek outside, you already live inside. The key to getting out of this ego game is to start observing it with curiosity, not judgment. Notice its patterns. Observe how it makes you react automatically. The simple act of observing is liberating, because when you see the ego for what it is, a set of limiting thoughts and beliefs, it loses its control over you. And it is in this space of awareness that your true nature has room to manifest. Gradually, this feeling of disconnection gives way to something deeper, a silent peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. The realization that you don't have to win any game, because the game itself is just an illusion created by the mind. And when that illusion is shattered, you begin to find your way back to your center. It's natural that, at some point on the journey, you'll feel lost. Those days when nothing seems to make sense, as if you were disconnected from everything, even yourself. This feeling of emptiness can be distressing, but it carries an important message. Sometimes losing yourself is the only way to find your way back in. What seems like a confusing or painful phase may actually be a silent call from your soul, a reminder that you have strayed from your center and need to return to it. Many people choose to ignore this call. They try to fill it with distractions, excessive work, social media, superficial relationships, or anything that anesthetizes the discomfort. But the truth is that the feeling of being lost is not a punishment, but an opportunity. Life is asking you to slow down and look at what you've been avoiding. When you feel lost, it's time to find yourself again. It's the call to stop looking outside and start listening to what's going on inside you. The feeling of losing direction is not the end of the road, but the beginning of a new phase of self-knowledge. Confusion is just the transition between who you thought you were and who you are destined to become. It's like being in the middle of a fog. You may not see the next step clearly, but you have to trust that the path will reveal itself as you go. And each time you take a step towards yourself, the fog begins to dissipate. This process requires courage. The courage to remain silent and ask yourself, what does my soul need right now? Perhaps the answer won't come immediately, and that's okay. Reconnection is not something forced. It happens when you allow yourself to be present with what you feel, without judgment. It may be uncomfortable, but it's in this space of presence that you begin to realize something important. You were never really lost. What happens is that sometimes you've forgotten who you are, but your essence is still there, intact, waiting patiently for you to turn towards it. And that's why moments of chaos or confusion are so valuable. They are like milestones on the journey, indicating that something inside you is ready to be transformed. The pain of feeling lost is not a sign of failure, but an invitation to return to your center. It's the turning point where you stop resisting and start surrendering to the flow of life, accepting what is, and trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. When you embrace this phase openly, without trying to control it, change begins to happen naturally. And deep down, you realize that you don't need a map to move forward. What you need is just to be present in the moment, listening to what your soul has to say. And it's in this state of inner listening that you discover something powerful. You don't need to go anywhere to find yourself, because everything you're looking for is already here, now. Have you ever noticed that your thoughts and emotions have the power to transform your day? The way you think and feel isn't just a reaction to what happens around you. It's the energy that shapes your reality. Everything you hold in your mind and heart manifests itself in some way in your life. This isn't just a spiritual theory. It's something you can observe for yourself. When you vibrate fear or scarcity, it seems that life mirrors those feelings back. But when you cultivate love, gratitude, and trust, things start to flow differently. What you feel and think repeatedly creates an energy field around you. Imagine your thoughts as seeds and your emotions as the soil that feeds them. If you sow doubt and resentment, you're likely to reap frustration. But if you nurture thoughts of hope and purpose, this energy returns to you as lighter experiences aligned with inner peace. The energy you emit is like an invitation for life to respond on the same frequency. People often live in automatic mode, without realizing that they are constantly creating their own experiences. The problem is that by not consciously choosing your thoughts, you end up reinforcing negative patterns that imprison you. You know that cycle where the same unwanted situations seem to repeat themselves? It could be financial difficulties, problems in relationships, or a feeling of continual dissatisfaction. This happens because your vibrational field keeps attracting what you believe to be your truth, even if unconsciously. The good news is that you have the power to change this now. And it all starts by becoming aware of what you are feeding yourself internally. Thoughts and emotions are like waves. You can choose which one to surf. Every time you choose to change a limiting thought for a confident one, or transform an emotion of fear into gratitude, you change the energy field around you. It's not about denying negative emotions, but about not clinging to them. It's like recognizing that you have a choice at every moment. Continue in the old cycle or raise your vibration. The secret lies in daily practice. Meditate for a few minutes every day. Observe your thoughts and notice what emotions they arouse. When you notice a negative thought, ask yourself, is this really the truth I want to create? Remember, you don't have to change everything at once. Small adjustments to what you think and feel can already create a profound impact over time. The reality you want isn't in the distant future. It starts with the next emotion you decide to cultivate. And as you begin to consciously align thoughts and emotions, something magical happens. External circumstances begin to reflect this new internal state. Things flow more smoothly, unexpected opportunities arise, and you feel more at peace with who you are. Not because life has become perfect, but because you have discovered your power to choose what you vibrate. And it's when you're in this state of alignment that the notion of time and control loses strength, and you find yourself more present and open to what the now has to offer. How many times have you found yourself reliving past moments or worrying about what hasn't even happened yet? The mind has this tendency to wander between the past and the future, trying to find answers or security. But there is a fundamental truth that you may have felt at some point. The only real thing is now. Everything that exists, everything you can truly access, happens right now. It is here and now that you find peace, clarity, and connection with your essence. The problem is that the mind likes to trap you in an endless cycle. The past becomes a burden when we get stuck in hurts, regrets, or what-ifs that are never resolved. The future is a constant source of anxiety and expectation, making us believe that happiness will only be available at some distant point. But the more you cling to the past or lose yourself in the future, the more you distance yourself from the present, the only place where your true nature can be experienced. Releasing the past and the future doesn't mean forgetting or failing to plan. It means releasing the control you try to exert over something that cannot be changed or guaranteed. What has passed cannot be changed, but it can be understood and accepted. What has not yet arrived is out of your reach, but you can prepare the ground to receive it in the best way by being present now. When you learn to let go of these ties, you feel that a great weight is lifted from your shoulders, and life begins to flow more naturally. Being present is a practice, not a permanent state. It means opening up to what's happening now, whether it's good or challenging, without resisting. It can be difficult at first, because the mind will insist on pulling you back to worries and memories. But over time, you discover that every time you bring your attention back to the present moment, it's as if you land back in yourself. Now is the place where your essence manifests itself most clearly, where you feel that everything is in its right place, even if things aren't perfect yet. Simple practices can help you anchor yourself in the present. Try breathing deeply and feeling the air going in and out of your lungs, noticing every sensation in your body. Or, when you're walking, observe your steps and the contact between your feet and the ground. You don't have to do anything grand to access the present. It's a question of being present in the little things. Little by little, you realize that the more time you spend in the now, the less weight the past carries, and the less anxious you feel about the future. Being in the present is like opening a door to the truth that has always been there, but has been obscured by incessant thoughts. And when you enter this space of presence, you find something you might not have expected. An inner silence, a state of peace that doesn't depend on anything external. It is in this silence that you begin to hear the voice of your own essence, the one that has always been waiting patiently to be rediscovered. We live in such a noisy world that silence has become uncomfortable for many people. The mind is always busy with thoughts, worries, and distractions, while everything around us encourages us to remain at this frenetic pace. But it is precisely in silence that you find what you are looking for. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where truth emerges. It is there that Christ consciousness can be felt as a living presence, guiding you clearly and lovingly. When you silence the mind, you make space to hear the wisdom that comes from within. Silence is a simple but powerful practice. It doesn't require anything of you, just the willingness to be still and listen. At first, it can be uncomfortable, because the mind doesn't like to be silent. As soon as you try to stop, it starts throwing up an avalanche of thoughts and worries. This is normal. The mind does this because it has been trained to stay active. But if you stay present and observe the thoughts without identifying with them, you'll soon realize that thoughts are like waves in an ocean. They come and go, but you are the ocean that remains. As you dive deeper into the silence, you'll begin to notice something precious. A soft, subtle voice that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, just whispers truths. It's the voice of Christ consciousness, a wisdom that goes beyond the intellect and is always available to anyone who opens up to it. This voice doesn't appear as elaborate sentences or logical reasoning. It reveals itself as intuitions, insights, and an inner sense of clarity and peace. It is the guidance of the divine within you, leading you back to the path of your purpose. This connection with silence transforms your perception of who you are and what really matters in life. You begin to realize that the answer to your dilemmas is not outside, but already dwells within you, just waiting for the moment when you allow yourself to listen. The answers don't always come immediately, but the practice of silence brings serene confidence. You know that, when the time is right, everything will become clear. What's more, silence isn't just for finding answers. It's a state of presence that puts you in tune with the energy of the universe. Over time, silence stops being just a practice and becomes a constant companion. Even in the midst of the hustle and bustle of everyday life, you begin to find moments of inner pause, where you reconnect with the peace that has always been within you. This state of serenity doesn't depend on external circumstances, because it comes from alignment with Christ consciousness. And it is in this state that you realize that you don't need to know all the answers or have everything under control. To be in tune with silence is to trust that the flow of life is always taking you where you need to be. There comes a time when you realize that there is nothing left to wait for. There is no ideal day to start, no more perfect version of yourself that needs to emerge before you act. You are already enough just as you are now. Everything you seek, peace, fulfillment, purpose, is already available within you. The real question is not if you are capable, but when you will choose to take responsibility for your own light and manifest it in the world. For a long time, it's easy to believe that we need more knowledge, more preparation, or that someone will come and save us and show us the way. But the truth is that no one can do this work for you. You are the co-creator of your reality, and the responsibility for your awakening is yours alone. Not as a burden, but as a privilege. The privilege of accessing your inner power and letting your light shine. This is the most important step, to stop waiting and assume, once and for all, that you are ready. Spiritual responsibility means recognizing that change begins within you. The outside world may remain challenging. Circumstances may not be ideal, but you have the power to choose how to respond to each situation. When you align with your true nature, you realize that you don't need to control everything around you. Your focus becomes raising your vibration and becoming the change you want to see in the world. Like a burning candle, your light can illuminate others around you, not by forcing, but simply by being. This path can take courage. Taking on your own light means accepting that you no longer need to hide behind justifications or fears. It means stopping outsourcing happiness to the future and living it now. It means letting go of expectations of how life should be and trusting that what you have in your hands is exactly what you need right now. Alignment with your essence doesn't happen when you solve all your problems, but when you decide that you can live in peace with them while continuing to evolve. And as you take on this responsibility, a truth reveals itself. You don't have to be perfect to shine. Your imperfections are part of your path, and every step, however small it may seem, is valid. The light you carry within you is the expression of the divine, and the more you take it on, the more your life is transformed. There are no more excuses and no need to wait for ideal conditions. The transformation you desire begins now, with you. And that's when you realize what you've been looking for has always been with you. You just need to allow that light to manifest. The truth is simple. Everything you seek is already within you. Fullness is not something you find outside, but something you awaken by living in tune with who you really are. Embracing your light and walking with awareness is the greatest gift you can give the world, because when you shine, others are inspired to shine too. Every choice, every thought, and every moment of presence are steps towards your greater purpose. If this message resonated with you, remember, we are on this journey together. Share this video with those who also need to hear these words, and leave your presence in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like, so that we can continue to build this community of awakening. Thank you for walking with us this far. The light you carry is needed in the world.